It gives me great pleasure to welcome back the Giant Tiger team, Mike Quinn, John Hubbard, James Johnstone, to share simply an amazing story in building a world-class distribution and transportation. Please give them a warm welcome.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Anne, for inviting us to speak. I was here in 2016, and at the time we were had just purchased the land and getting ready to build a new distribution center. And so today we'll just kind of walk you through, first of all, a little bit about the history of Giant Tiger stores. It's kind of one of those marketing things. We're not allowed to speak anywhere unless we talk about the stores first. So you're going to have to listen to a little bit about Giant Tiger. And then our passion, of course, is getting into the distribution and the transportation. And so me being the kind of elderly of the three, I'll take you to the before and during and decision. And then John Hubbard's going to walk you through the robotics. That's his passion. He's a real techie guy. And then followed by James Johnstone, who is probably one of the best experts in transportation around, and we're fortunate to have him on our team this year as well. So we've made some giant strides since 2016. This is just a view of our distribution center off Highway 2 on 1 Giant Tiger Boulevard in Johnstown. And so I'm the Vice President of Warehousing and Distribution. Been 29 years with Giant Tiger. 18 years previous to that, I was in the retail business as a manager with Kmart stores in the West and here in Ontario. And boy, this is hard to read. And I had the opportunity by joining Giant Tiger to grow the business, the distribution business and transportation business, starting with 25,000 square feet to where it is, and 5 trucks to where it is today. So today's agenda is a brief history of Giant Tiger, which I'll start with the decision to reposition in other words, a network study, and then the design and automation, and then, of course, transportation trucking. So we'll start with a video, marketing video about our stores.
Rooted in family values. In 1961, an $11,000 investment planted the seed that would steadily grow strong for the next 57 years. We are built on a foundation that allows natural growth. Our customers, our staff, our community, our family. We knew who we were from the beginning. Humble, thoughtful, understanding who our customers are. It's about the product and about the people, creating a positive environment and being a role model in the community. It's pretty simple, really. That's just who we are. We continue to grow despite a marketplace that says we shouldn't. Walmart and Amazon don't meet the needs of our customers. We've come a long way, baby, and we're going to keep going. 245 stores so far. We will build more stores and more customer loyalty. We will continue to invest in technology, infrastructure, and our people. Don't forget where you came from, but never lose sight of where you're going.
So back in 2016, we started with a song called The Eye of the Tiger, and I had some requests out there, but I don't have that particular video or song in this presentation, so those who wanted to dance to Eye of the Tiger, sorry to disappoint you. So we're a family-owned discount store, and it was started by Gordon Reed back in 1961, and since then we've grown to a little past 245 stores to 254 stores today, and we continue to grow at a rate of about 12 stores per year. We're in places from as far as Sydney, Nova Scotia in the east, or Cape Breton, and then as far as Calgary in the west. So we're not in Newfoundland or in BC yet. So we employ about 9,000 Canadians, recognized as a top employer, and we're committed to working with the communities. We also have our own internal distribution, transportation, and logistics division. Our strategy is to have 350 stores by 2026, and we'll do this through entering new markets and planned expansions of areas that we're in already. We're continuing to be an employer of open and honest and choice employer, and striving for continued operational excellence in transportation and logistics are key to growing the company. We've helped a lot in the regions, in the region we work in, and in regions where we have stores. And you can just see on on the slide some of the donations and some of the contributions that we've made to the different regions that we're located in. And just a few pictures of some of the events that we took part in some of these regions. So getting into the decision to reposition the DC and the network study. Okay, so supply chain. If we look back at the distribution network, and at the time of the study, it consisted of 3 warehouse facilities in Ottawa, totaling close to 600,000 square feet. We also had 2 temperature-controlled facilities servicing all of Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. We had 2 cross-dock facilities in Montreal and Mississauga for doing direct store deliveries. This is where vendors would bring merchandise to either of those 2 locations. We would sort it by store at that area and then truck it to our central DC, and it would be shipped to the stores the next day. We had a small trucking division, and since then it's grown considerably, which James will tell you a little bit more about. So the distribution network study that we did was a distribution strategy that would take us into 2027. Deloitte worked with us on this project. They were an excellent consultant to deal with, and the distribution network analysis for Giant Tiger operation was for Eastern Canada in Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. And it developed a baseline option projecting today's costs into the future and defined 3 distribution network scenarios to consider in the option evaluation. Analyze and map the distribution network under each strategy, accounting for projected growth, and perform a detailed option evaluation and create a strategic distribution vision for Giant Tiger. The network study. So Giant Tiger conducted the network study in late 2014 to determine the optimal location for our distribution center. The study took into account both existing store locations and future store growth. The study determined that the Highway 401 corridor between Brockville and Prescott was our optimal location. That was also a good fit with Leeds and Grenville, where lifestyle grows good business. And we've certainly enjoyed working with Leeds and Grenville over the years. Why we chose Johnstown, besides the little roar in the background, it was a Johnstown business park that had an Ontario certified investment ready site off of Highway 2. They offered full municipal services. Over 300 acres of land was available for future expansion. The township was excellent to work with, and we could easily and quite quickly go through the sale of the land, the permits. It was close to Ottawa, so staff retention was important to us, and we were able to retain 80% of our staff to initially come with us and work in Johnstown and commute. We also offered several packages and enticements for them to come down and either purchase or rent or move partway between Ottawa and Johnstown. So we also needed to have available LCV access to highways 401 and 416. That's your long combination vehicles, which is your 2 trailers hooked up to one. Our network study showed that this would be the ideal location and potentially have over $1 million annually saved in transportation costs from the location to the stores that we had at the time and the projected stores that we were going to open in the near future. And once again, it was just a really good fit for this to work with this county. And retaining staff was really important to us. We had all staff. When we were in Ottawa, we sat down with each and every one of the staff, offered them a position, either the position they had or something very similar, in order to entice them to come to Johnstown with us. We did a lot of communication and transparency. Staff were informed of every step of the way of how we were progressing. They were involved in helping to design the facility, picking the things, the amenities, that type of thing that they would most like to have in a facility in order to, to be working down here and away from home. We offered very generous relocation packages that covered all of their moving expenses and legal expenses and whatever, so that they could move to an area like Brockville or Cardinal or Johnstown or Prescott or even Kempville as well, which was only 20 minutes away. We talked about the new facility as an investment in Giant Tiger's future, and it was important to let the staff know that, we didn't have a choice. We couldn't stay in Ottawa and operate out of 3 different facilities, and there really wasn't a land opportunity. And because of the network study, it just made sense that we weren't in the right location in Ottawa, and if we're going to continue to grow, we needed to be down where we are today. And then we came across a certified, okay, I'll read it over here on some of this. So we also did a creation of community boards that we used to show our staff all the different options and opportunities for education and schooling and activities within this area. So merchandise and staff relocation began in June 2018 and was completed by January of 2019. 80% of our current GTW team, as I mentioned, chose to relocate with us, along with the generous relocation packages that were offered. And the objective was to transition with minimal impact on the stores. So to relocate was a little bit of a nightmare. We certainly can remember some of the challenges along the way of trying to close down 3 distribution centers in Ottawa or 3 warehouses and move down to here without disrupting our store service. And we were able to do that by getting stores to adjust store order times and bring in orders earlier and do a lot of cross-docking and just making it happen. The final result was that Johnstown was the optimal location for the DC, and that we were able to retain our staff. And so Johnstown was the optimal location. As I mentioned, retaining staff was our top priority, and the proximity of stores and vendors was met by choosing this location. LCV access was available at a minimal construction cost, so we spent a little bit of money at Highway 2 and Highway 16, and there was a lot, and we have lots of land available to us for future growth. The design was completed, and we chose automation and robotics, which John's going to talk a little bit about. So here's a little bit of the journey from the time that we started construction. And we did this through drones, and we were able to show our staff and keep them up to date as we worked through this project. So it was a massive project that we worked on, and last year at this time we could not have stood up here and spoke. We were going through our fair share of challenges and just trying to get through a Christmas season with 200 and some retail stores needing our services. And but today we can say that this is a really smooth Christmas, and we're kind of enjoying this, and we don't mind speaking, and we've been doing a fair bit of it lately. But we're feeling pretty comfortable right now, so hopefully everything right now this morning is working well at the facility as well. So with that, I'll pass it on to John Hubbard, and he's going to talk a little bit about design and automation. So thank you very much.
I just want to thank Ann for inviting us here to share our story, but I mean, not to pat our team on the back. I think it's a pretty amazing story. We got that building built and moved in less than 3 years. So I think that's an amazing story. Thanks. So my name is John Hubbard. I'm Vice President of Distribution Operations with Giant Tiger. I've been with Giant Tiger for just under 14 years. I have 25 years in operation experience. I was the operational lead for this project, and then our COO at the time thought it would be a great idea when our project manager left halfway through that I should take on the project management piece as well. But I do urge you that if you do take a project management if you do take on a project of this magnitude, don't do that to someone. That's what I looked like at the start of the project, and that's what I looked at the end of the project. Now, if anybody says that they don't see a difference, God bless you. So to start this project, I mean, to describe a project of this magnitude in 10 or 15 minutes it would be challenging, but I'll just go over some of the main highlights. So we had to make some strategic decisions, high level. One of them was we decided to build a greenfield distribution center. We did try to buy the Target one out in Cornwall. But Walmart was interested in it. So once Walmart got involved in the game, we just bragged that we made them pay way more than they needed to for that distribution center. But in the end, building our own facility was definitely the way to go. We had to understand and support our 10-year strategic plan. Now, I know a lot of people would say 10 years, that's impossible in this day and age. And you're right, it is. But you have to have those steps of where you want to be in 10 years. But at a minimum, you want to know what's going on in the next 5. So Mike mentioned it was really important to keep our current team and our culture, because as soon as you mention automation, what's the first thing that people are going to think? We're going to lose our jobs. And fortunately, at Giant Tiger, our management team had a very, very good fit and culture fit with our team who trusted us. So we were able to share right at the beginning what our plans were. Because the last thing we wanted to do was have our staff find out through news media or a leak that we were planning this automation, because that would have just killed the trust. The other thing is we got to look at what our competitive landscape looks like. What are our competitors doing? How are we going to be able to compete in the next 5 years? We're building a facility that's going to last us the next 10, and it's like buying a new car. When you buy a new car, say I had a van that I just sold 10 years ago, I bought it 10 years ago, and then you buy a new vehicle, and then next year they come out with all this great technology that your vehicle doesn't have. So that's what you have to make sure you're doing, is you're investing in a building that's going to be able to support the technology that's coming over the next 5 years. And you have to put the proper infrastructure, not only to meet your customer demands now, but what your future customers are going to look like. So why automation? This is how we used to pick. And this is how we pick now. So, any questions? So why automation? So on this here, besides all the fancy gains of productivity. So our customers expect a high-quality product at an affordable price. So we have to find better ways to get our product to our stores at the lowest cost. Support Giant Tiger's strategic growth plan. The labor market pool is shrinking, changing, and competitive. Some of the things I heard this morning of some of the speakers up here, staffing is challenging. I can guarantee you that anybody in this room that has someone looking for a job in the area, they're either working for us or we met them. We struggled to find people, and I don't think that's uncommon amongst the room. Our industry is moving to automation. Startups are already there. We talked about what our competitors are doing. Robotic technology has matured. It's more readily available, and of course, becomes more affordable. We have to invest now to continue to be competitive in the future. And then, of course, the 3 R's, ROI, ROI, ROI. And basically, customers' expectations are exceeding the ability for us to do things manually. And if we don't meet our customers' demands, we know that someone else will, Amazon. But anyway, so we got to make sure we're competitive and make sure that we can meet our customers' demands.
The Symbotic system is the most advanced order fulfillment solution on the market. It leverages leading-edge technology that's simple to install and operate. Symbotic can double your existing warehouse capacity. Our solution is comprised of a modular and flexible framework, which utilizes depalletizing and palletizing, high-speed vertical lifts, a stationary storage structure, and a fleet of the fastest autonomous mobile robots in the industry. Case induction begins with the pallet label scan. The pallet then advances to the delayering cell, where each layer is separated robotically or manually. Cases are grouped together by 2 high-speed robots to maximize storage density. The size and weight of each case is inspected to ensure order accuracy and then advances towards the storage structure. The system automatically sets aside any suspect or mismatching cases. The storage module is comprised of levels, stacked from floor to ceiling. It's virtually maintenance-free since there are no mechanical or electrical parts. High-speed vertical lifts transition cases to and from a storage level. Our software determines the location of cases for optimal storage density and system throughput. Our bots are capable of reaching speeds of 25 miles per hour and are the fastest autonomous mobile robots available on the market. When an order is placed, our software determines the best location for picking and designates an outbound high-speed vertical lift for palletizing. The outbound module is customized to be manual or automated based on your warehouse demands. The automated process utilizes pairs of robots that work together to build pallets at a rate exceeding 1,500 cases per hour. Symbotic's proprietary software builds dense pallets per customer requirements and in-truck delivery sequence. As each pallet is built, it's lowered through the rotating wrapper, labeled, and placed on a conveyor for pickup. Implementing a Symbotic system allows companies to retrofit their traditional distribution center with minimal disruptions to operations.
So 80% of our items are eligible for Symbotic. So that means it fits into the Symbotic structure and can be picked by the automation. Of those 80%, it's 90% of our total outbound. Autonomous case shuttle bots that run on static electricity. You heard in the video that there's no wires. These are all autonomous, run on Wi-Fi, by the way. I don't know where the other, oh, there you are, yes. So they are running on Wi-Fi, which is the reason why I like what I heard in your presentation. So all of the power is at the front of the structure. 80% of the structure is just metal racking. Only vendor that supplied inbound, case shuttle, and outbound automation. So for any IT people in the room, as soon as you have multiple softwares that have to communicate, your project risk factor goes exceedingly high. Anytime one software has to communicate with another, risk goes up. So Symbotic was the only vendor that did the inbound case shuttle that you saw, the actual picking of the cases, and then the palletization of those boxes all under the same software. So the only thing that's communicating with our system is our warehouse management system. That is key. The founder of Symbotic did it because he believed that there wasn't a system out there. He had automation in his facilities. It's at a wholesale grocers in the US, one of the biggest wholesalers in the US. And it just didn't satisfy the needs of his business. So a good portion, as I said earlier, 80% of our SKUs and 90% of our volume comes out of this system. So it was important that there was a grocery focus on the system itself. I'm also glad to say that it's the only one in Canada. We have the only Symbotic system in Canada. Walmart is on, they have 2 of these now. We're ahead of them. First time ever in Giant Tiger history, we got ahead of Walmart. And they have 25 more on the go. So we get a nice head start. So ready for automation. If anybody is contemplating automation, some things you might want to think about. As I said at the start, understand your business strategy and future growth plans. Once you invest in this type of automation, you're married to it. You can't afford to all of a sudden decide you're going to change directions and buy a whole different type of automation. Understand your current and future customer needs. We developed our system to be able to handle e-commerce orders in the future. We're not currently doing that out of our facility. The volume just doesn't warrant it. But we have the ability to switch it to e-commerce. Understand your operation and processes. People think that automation is going to solve all your business problems. If you don't have a good understanding of how your business works, the automation is just going to make you do bad things faster. Avoid making too many changes all at once. There are a people component to the automation, there always is. So you just got to make sure that you don't rock their world and flip it upside down, and then people just kind of go into freeze mode and can't believe that they're working in this environment that's completely changed the world. You have to remain flexible. Like I said, big investment, fast return, but you have to be able to be flexible to continue to change your business needs with the automation you choose. Configure, develop processes, and implement with your own team. Too many times people third-party the work because you have to run the day-to-day, and everybody's busy. It's not like everybody goes to work and says, well, I have the next 3 years available to me because I'm not doing anything, so why don't we do a project? Then the third party leave, and then you have a bunch of people that don't know how your system works. So, and anybody that's dealt with third-party consultants, they are costly. And then make sure you have a dedicated team for the project. As I said on the onset, I happened to manage this, and it worked. I think I just got lucky. I think I'm better for it. That's what everybody keeps telling me. But anyway, make sure you have a dedicated team for projects of this size. It's not fair to the person to expect them to take on a project of this magnitude, as well as keep the day-to-day running. And without anything, you need a successful team. Mike mentioned Deloitte, but if it wasn't for the team, and I would include Mother Nature, the winter we had in March, in 2016, I don't know if anybody remembers, but I don't even think we got an inch of snow through the whole year. Had we got the snow we had last year and this year, and of course, the only thing that was disappointing is we were told that, we hardly get any snow up here in Johnstown. Well, that wasn't true. Last year we had a major snowstorm, and thank God we had automation, because we found out that people in the Prescott area don't like coming to work when it snows. So 25% of our staff called in sick. But on the flip side, we had a guy come in on his snowmobile because his car was stuck in his driveway. So there's pros and cons to it. But we're fortunate to have a great team. And the great team, and I include the folks sitting next to me here, as well as the team. If anybody's done the tour of our facility, anybody you meet in there, especially the management and supervisor team, they were just phenomenal through this whole process. And that's it for me. I will pass it on to James Johnstown. He'll talk about our transportation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. I guess just a quick recap for some takeaway. A lot of great and timely subjects this morning, so that's the good news from all speakers, all members of government at all levels that were up this morning. Of course, my colleagues, Mike and John. The bad news is that I'm the only thing standing between you all and lunch. So I feel the heat. So my name is James Johnstone. I am the Associate Vice President of Transportation at Giant Tiger. This is a wonderful picture of our fleet. If you've perhaps been on some of the local roads, the highways, you can see this equipment running up and down out of Johnstown all day, all night. A bit about myself, as I mentioned, the Associate Vice President of Transportation. I've been in the transportation and logistics sector for about 15 years now. I've been with Giant Tiger for coming up on 2 years this late winter, and I'm responsible for all of our domestic and international transportation, and most recently I'm also a Freight Management Association of Canada board member. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with that organization, it's an organization that's based in Ottawa that liaisons with the government and various other interest groups on behalf of retailers, manufacturers, and all matters related to transportation. So our primary focus in this discussion will be Tiger Trucking, which is our private fleet. Tiger Trucking has been in operation starting in Ottawa since 1987, and it services the stores as a private fleet. For those of you that don't know, a private fleet is an organization, this belongs to an organization such as Giant Tiger that would have a business that relies on trucking, but its primary business, its primary focus is not trucking or transportation, but is heavily reliant on that portion of trucking and transportation and logistics to operate their other core functions. So based out of Johnstown now, we have a satellite yard in Moncton, New Brunswick, as well as operations in Brampton, Ontario. We operate a modern fleet. We're now operating at over 100 plus drivers, and we are dedicated to that store network, 250 locations across Canada, all of which are serviced out of Johnstown, Brockville, and Brantford for our fresh frozen distribution. I'll talk a little bit about our international transportation. So Giant Tiger is a direct importer of goods from overseas. We have approximately 1,200 containers a year that come into the east coast and west coast of Canada. Those are direct imports. Some of them could be Giant Tiger branded goods, clothing, furniture, homeware. And we have an in-house customs team, an in-house importation team that handles all of that. After the buyers create their purchase orders, the factories in China or Bangladesh, Sri Lanka will build the products, manufacture the products, they'll ship them to the port, we'll do consolidation at the ports, book the ocean, do the customs clearance, do the de-stuffing in the west coast or the east coast into intermodal units to bring the units inland to Johnstown. And we do all of that ourselves internally. We have direct relationships with various steamship lines to handle that ourselves. So a lot of companies will third-party that, and to John's point about having a third-party handle your business. If they leave or if they drop the ball, you'll have people on your team that don't understand how that works, and we see a great value in having that in-house. So location, location, location. Mike talked a lot about what went into the decision for us to move to Johnstown, the network study that was put on by Deloitte and our management team at the time. We offer new modern facilities that have attractive amenities to our staff, and the staff not only being the folks in management, the warehouse, but also our driving staff. We have a lot of drivers, and they're often overlooked when you look at facilities that cater to drivers, whether it's a shipping receiving office, a bathroom in said shipping receiving office, or just the amenities that they have available to eat their lunch, heat their food, or rest while they're waiting for their loads. We have direct access to the 401 and the 416. We're located much closer to the GTA, which goes into Mike Quinn's comment about the savings of $1 million per year in terms of our transportation costs. That stem time to go from Ottawa to the 401 back and forth is now reduced and removed. And we have a larger pool of professional drivers in the region. In the Johnstown, Prescott, Brockville area, there are a lot of professional truck drivers, more so than in Ottawa, and that's allowed us to rapidly grow our fleet by pulling in those individuals from this community to help us do that. And of course, we're LCB accessible. So we'll get into that in one moment, what that means, but it's a tremendous strategy for our growth of stores in the future to keep us as a low-cost operator. And this is an example of one of our LCB departures. This is one tractor that is pulling two 53-foot trailers. What this allows us to do is move bulk goods that are not necessarily very heavy, utilizing two trailers, one truck, one driver. We save a ton of fuel, a ton of driver hours, and we're able to reposition other trucks to do other work versus tying up two trucks, two trailers, two drivers. Okay? So the LCV program, as I mentioned before, is a huge part of our future expansion within the corridor that allows travel of LCVs, and that would be predominantly the 401 corridor from Windsor to just past Quebec City. And as I had mentioned previously, it allows safe, efficient movement of goods throughout our network where LCVs are permitted to use, which is predominantly the 400 series of highways. And you might see that long combination and think, oh my, that's such a huge truck, it's going to cause congestion, it's going to be unsafe. In all actuality, these trucks predominantly depart in the overnight period. We're able to get trucks off the road by not having multiple trucks doing the work of one truck. The drivers that have to pass the rigorous standards set by the MTO to drive those trucks have a ton of experience, and the trucks that we give them have a plethora of safety features that the standard truck going down the road just doesn't have to have as standard features. So what is the impact of doing this? Well, for us to make a delivery to every store 3 times a week requires one truck and one trailer. So to remove one truck from that equation, it equals a lot, and some of it's staggering. So to remove one truck, it's 68.6 homes electrical use for 1 year just by removing one truck, or 232 barrels of oil, the energy used by 31.4 cars, or 43,680 liters of diesel. That's for every truck we're able to pull off the road. That obviously has an immediate impact to the wear and tear on our municipal and provincial highways, or our oil consumption, the air that we're breathing, the congestion on our highways. So for us to relocate to a location that allows us to do this is phenomenal. So what you're seeing here is it's the Quick Zip graphics system, which is installed now in all of our trucks within Giant Tiger's fleet. This is a first in Canada, this system. It's widely used in the United States, but Giant Tiger is the first transportation retailer, anything in Canada, to use this system throughout its fleet, and we're very proud to have it. And what it is traditionally graphics are installed with a adhesive backing. And in order to remove those graphics, you have to destroy them. These graphics, as you can see, are printed on heavy-duty vinyl rolls, and they're locked into place like a drum skin onto the trailer, which this allows us to not only recycle the graphic at the end of its life cycle versus tossing it in a landfill, we can actually change that graphic out for any special events, marketing, seasonal promotions within about 45 minutes. We roll up the old graphic, stuff it in a tube, pull out the new graphic, slide it on. And you can see here where they're locking it in place. So you can see, based upon this one here, where it's a fresh install, it's very vivid looking. The DPI of the image is much higher than that of a printed adhesive product. and the life cycle is much longer. Typically, the sun will fade your adhesive graphics after 5 or 6 years. They're still functional, but they don't look as nice. There is an old one there that is approximately 3 years old. It's all scratched up and sun bleached. So as mentioned, that is our quick zip graphic system. We are the first fleet in Canada with this system. So we're in this region. As you see this coming out, you can now point that out and say, hey, that comes from Giant Tiger. I learned that's a first, and it's in Johnstown. It's in Leeds, Grenville. Again, these graphics can be changed in as little as 45 minutes, and they can be reused without limitation. So we can take them off and use them 1,000 times. They're never going to wear out. And at the end of a campaign, or if we change up the image on our fleet, we can just simply take those graphics to be recycled versus peeling off adhesives into giant balls of tape and tossing them in the garbage where they can't be recycled. So if you think about how big those banners are, they're 53 feet by 9'6" on both sides of the trailer. That's a lot of vinyl, and it's a lot of garbage that's saved from being tossed. So along with the automation that we have in our facility and the great amenities that we have, we've made a change in our fleet and how we do things in conjunction with systems like Symbotic to be more data-driven. So transport companies, including Giant Tiger, we're on the verge of becoming more connected than ever before. And so terms like big data and Internet of Things are becoming more common to the industry. And I've heard a few of those terms this morning, especially when we're talking about connectivity over Wi-Fi, connectivity over LTE. And this data can be used for multiple decision-making processes. Companies that are early adopters to data-driven, i.e. those who base their decisions on actual data, are going to have a huge advantage in the future over companies that are making decisions on poorly modeled spreadsheets or assumptions or gut feelings. And we collect data in our operations now on a multitude of things that influences our decisions in the future. So for instance, we can collect data on driver behavior, fuel consumption, waiting time, empty runs, and we can generate reports and guide ourselves in the future with that data. So I'll talk a little bit about Internet of Things, and that's a term that is used to explain how one or more devices can connect with each other and a broader network to perform tasks that are perhaps unique to one process but shared amongst others. This can consist of cell phones, tablets, GPS devices, cameras, sensors, you name it. Sensors involved in trucks, computers embedded in trucks that operate those trucks. At Giant Tiger, we use different data points from the Internet of Things that we have installed in our fleet across the organization for things like fuel tax and finance, fuel economy within the fleet department, and from a health and safety perspective, trailer temperatures for food safety. So there are multiple data sets that are all coming in that are valuable to different compartments within the Giant Tiger organization. And some of the tools that we use to collect that data are just simply out there and embedded, and they're always reporting back to us. So our drivers are set up for electronic logs, which becomes law in June of 2021 federally, as we're a federally regulated carrier. And so all of our drivers will operate on a system called Big Road, and this is a logbook. If you've ever heard of a driver's log, they have a paper log now where they log their activity. This is all going to transform to a digital document that's on our driver's phone. And the driver will not have to interact with this document. There will be a sensor in the truck. There is a sensor in the truck that detects the movement and the position of the driver, and it will update I'll use the laser here. It will update the line down here of driving or off duty automatically without the driver having to stop and enter that information. It's an independent third-party source of data that we can't tamper with. Part of those tools is the telemetrics we get. So that same system that feeds into the driver's phone, which pumps in the truck's location, the speed, the heading, the brakes, whether he has a seatbelt on or not. That information also shows us in the office where that truck is in real time. So we're able to pull that information in and calculate things like run time, harsh braking, harsh cornering, the percentage of the time the engine was idle, whether or not that driver was speeding or perhaps going off route. And of course, with the telemetric data, because everyone's devices are connected, whether you know it or not, when you're using Google Maps, your phone is reporting back to Google, which reports back to me, how fast you're moving on those roads. I don't know where you are, but I can tell by looking at the traffic that you're not doing 100 kilometers per hour, and it reports back that the map is red, or the map is yellow, or the map is orange. So we know in real time where traffic data is. So gone are the days of, I'm 5 minutes away from the warehouse, I'm just stuck in traffic. Now we know that you're not. In addition to that, we use what's known as a geofence. So we take a geolocation of all of our stores, and this is store 248, which opened recently in Windsor, and we draw a physical map. This is a screenshot from the software we use around the store. So we know whenever our truck, you know, when you watch football and they cross the plane of the goal and it's a touchdown, we know as soon as that truck crosses the plane of the store, whether he's in the parking lot or in the store, and that he's there. So there's a virtual record kept for the rest of history as to the exact moment in time he entered that threshold, and not just, you know, parked at the PetSmart next door. And one of my favorite features, and the last one that I'll speak about today, is DriveWise. So our fleet has an exemplary safety record with the MTO and federal authorities, and we were one of the very first carriers in Canada to have a system called DriveWise, which is a scale house bypass system. So there's 28 scale locations, I believe, in Ontario, of 30 that have DriveWise terminals in them, and as our trucks approach, our drivers' phones, which our company issued, they will get a hands-free alert saying you're about to approach a weigh scale. The driver has previously logged into his or her phone to let the system know which truck they're driving, and there will be an algorithm that runs at the MTO scale and will say, okay, every time we pull Giant Tiger in, we never really find any problems. It's not really worth our time to spend enforcement dollars on this when we could be looking for other perpetrators. Let them go. And as we come closer to the scale, we'll be notified that, again, we're 1 kilometer away, and as we approach the scale, the algorithm will spit back a note to the driver, bypass. So the scale knows that we're going to go around, the driver is allowed to go around the line, and we keep moving. We don't have to stop, slow down, get inspected. We're pre-cleared, for lack of a better term, and we keep going, and we're able to deliver goods at a lower cost on time to our stores. Everybody wins, and the MTO gets to focus on people that are not making safe choices, which is not us. Okay, thank you very much. That's all my time, and we'll open it up to questions.